to use the appropriate sources. Okay.
So that, I want to plan so that we have a guided practice, which is really a model to what we expect students to do.
Mhm.
So for this activity, I would pick 2 texts and actually run through one of them. They're short, right?
Mm-hmm.
Run through one of them, top to bottom, like give them a couple minutes to annotate, and then go live sharing, so you can show them like do a Zoom call from your phone and show like exactly what you're doing on your paper,
Mm-hmm.
so they can follow along. When I read this is my annotation. This is what it looks like. If you don't have this annotation, do it now. That
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
it's only because you don't have like a doc cam. If you got a doc cam, it's the same thing. Just do it live in there.
I think that doc cam works. I just don't know how it works.
We can see if we can get it to work, and because that'll be a first at bat and a really good try
Definitely.
for this.
I really, really want a doc cam.
What it does is it really gives students an idea of what you're looking for and how you approach certain
Right.
things. So it's like, at this level, this is how we think
Mm-hmm.
when you're reading text. It's super impactful.
No, I definitely see that because they want to match what I'm doing.
Right.
I can't get them to see that
Mm-hmm.
because like even the conversations today when they're reading, they're like trying to match with the vocab and what the words are trying to say. They're trying to match where I'm at. It's just that gap in between where they don't know how to break apart the text.
Great. That's perfect. What exactly are you looking for when you're reading it's the nonfiction text, right?
This is the fiction text.
But they're gonna do the same thing for the nonfiction.
Same thing with the nonfiction. So for nonfiction, we're going to be looking for what is the point of view or the theme. We're going to be looking for if they can use evidence to prove that. So a selection of evidence, an explanation of evidence, and then they have to communicate and accurately, precisely. And then there's also norms and active listening is a huge one.
And this is being assessed verbally, or are you gonna look at this?
Well, I'm gonna look at this and verbally. So if they can use this, that's gonna be right there. They can have evidence-based discussions and contribute to them. And then if they match the norms and expectations of like responding to these different statements of like, okay, the lesson learned from this text is this, or the point of view from this text is this. I found this because of this. And then someone could be like, well, actually, I thought it was this, and they have sentence frames for that too, and the resources for them to have. My idea and the vision I had for it was they would be in their groups, they'd have the sentence frames in front of them, also with this text, like 1, 2, and then every time they had to contribute, they would use from those like 3 to 5 of these sentence stems, and that would help with their overall score. So like if they only spoke once, or one time, and that's gonna like be below standard if they've used so many different sentence stems, so many different contributions. Because norms and active listening is like, okay, they meet the standard of like they're responding to the question or they're staying on task, but contributing to evidence-based discussions, I think they're at a grade where they can speak more than once.
Great. What that sounds like to me is that there's an opportunity to open up the floor for like some students who have that strong skill set of like, I can read something and I can go to the floor and speak about it and be fine, and I can cite evidence. Well, that's okay. Why would this tool be beneficial to some other chunks of students?
Well, I think the point of this tool right here, and I say this to the students too, is to map out your thinking beforehand.
And how would that show up in the circle?
Conversation?
Mm-hmm.
So in the literature circle, if they can go ahead and state their point of view and then back it up with evidence, that tells me that they are actually pulling from the text opposed to their own opinion.
Got it.
And so one of the things that we're talking about right now in class, we practiced the last 2 days, is okay, your opinion is your opinion, but what are others' opinions? Because our essential question is, what's the importance of looking through multiple perspectives? And if they were to pull from multiple perspectives, they have to be able to actively listen. They have to pull from their other people's point of view. And that's why we're checking out fiction and nonfiction.
Got it. So for the nonfiction text, we're gonna print them out and look at them,
Okay.
and then minute, and you've targeted the 3 things you're looking for already,
which is gonna, well, number one is gonna be, I'm gonna look at selection of evidence.
mm-hmm,
That's not a cog skill on there,
right,
but I'm gonna look for it, and then contributing to evidence-based discussions and norms and active listening.
got it.
Because for me, this is a skill that came from the last, and this tells me if they've had gaps. So another thing that we could do that I actually have not done yet, which was on my to-do list, was the selection of evidence pre-assessment. And the theme pre-assessment is also on the docket, but with the way the class went last time, I was like, okay, I think they understand theme for the most part. They understand it's a universal message, or like, you know, like what they're trying to get at. But selection of evidence to support that theme is like wishy-washy. So I might do an assessment of that and then bucket it, but I don't know yet. That's where I don't know if we should sacrifice that time to do that, because that's gonna be like 10 minutes where we could actually preemptively do this activity in front of them, and it teaches them the skill, and then they can practice it, opposed to them doing a cold run and then doing it.
So sometimes it's okay to scaffold those skills. Can you identify a theme? Can you identify evidence to support that claim?
Mm-hmm.
And then can you speak about it?
Right.
That seems exactly like the correct chain
Okay.
of events there. So you can focus on one skill and then assess that skill in the moment, and then have another assessment that assesses different skills, which is what the literature circle would be.
Okay.
But I like that students will be reading, annotating, identifying a theme, and selecting evidence. That gives them a lot of at-bats at a skill that they're gonna need coming up soon, right?
Yeah.
Early and often. So let's spend some time doing just that. It is gonna segue into some aggressive monitoring, because I also think your feedback in the moment while they're working on this worksheet, I can't see what's there, but I'm assuming it was the same thing we were looking at before. I would assume that if they're using this worksheet and they have exactly what you want them to have as far as the theme, the selection of evidence, and the analysis, if they're saying those words, they're gonna be more confident in what they're saying, they're gonna have more speaking points, and they're gonna be able to build off and or rebuttal other students, because they've done the work. So that'll give us a place where we can aggressively monitor what students have, and that's why we limited it to 2 readings, because we wanna give them feedback because they need these skills, but when it's 11, it makes it really hard to monitor in the moment.
Okay.
So
narrow the stream, funnel the focus.
It's target.
Yeah.
Target the skills, target the focus, and that's what we're monitoring for.
Okay. Okay. I can do that. As far as these 2 texts goes, so since they've already selected their fictional texts or their topics, these topics are wide ranging. So how do we choose? Are these like at-bats before they do it themselves, or are these the actual text that they're gonna put in here?
I would use the actual ones for this round, because they're gonna have another lit circle like this, right?
Yeah.
If we model what it should look like now, I think it's gonna be super strong in the future.
Okay.
So what do you think?
No, I think that makes sense. I'm just asking because, like, since they've already started and chosen the topics, and then this one would be segregated from that, like it'd be separate. Where we're like, okay, these are the 2 texts away from your topics, but these are the ones that we're gonna look at. Which I think is not a bad idea, because nonfiction, they have very little experience with nonfiction. Most English classes are very focused on fiction.
I wonder how many different topics you have. Do you know? They actually picked them already.
They're not too expansive. I think that like most of the top ones was serial killers. They love serial killers. I didn't anticipate that. And then sports, and then abuse, which I thought was very interesting that they chose these topics. Very few were outside. There's outliers outside of that, but there's like 3 groups that chose serial killers and ended up getting away from it, and then some came back to it, and then another one chose a lot chose abuse, and they found some pretty interesting short stories about that. And then sports was like the next highest one. Which is like those. If you like, honestly, there's definitely going to be a nonfiction story about a sports like star involved
in abuse
and potentially a murder. That's almost guaranteed, and like I could find it in probably 5 minutes.
Jason Williamson, right?
That's based like Jason Williams. We can talk about Aaron Hernandez. Like
it's abuse.
That's abuse, murder, and sports.
A couple more in there, yeah.
There's a couple. There's a lot in there. Like, especially if you're talking about American football, there's like hands up across the board.
Yeah.
And then like I think that we could even, if we really wanted to spin it, we could even say that like what Kaepernick's doing with the NFL, like what he's doing has something to do with abuse and has something to do with sports and has something to do with murder and just about point of view and how the story flips. But yeah, like those suggest like ideas that come to mind initially.
I think those are great. Yeah. I guess Aaron Hernandez might be most compelling. Well, if they don't know him, he's still young, right? Is it like?
Yeah, he was very young.
Yeah. It was recent also.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you're on prep right after this. You can find when are you going to teach these lessons?
I'm gonna teach this lesson for nonfiction next week.
Oh, perfect. So let's spend some time finding those. We're gonna actually look at them, and then we're gonna plan out our ideal responses. We're gonna have an exemplar going.
Okay. Have the exemplar. Plan ahead. Let's let me see. Let me plan this out in my head. So nonfiction. Fiction, fictional analysis. They also have to write paragraphs for these things. So I think that'd be much easier done. Okay, no. 3. Article reading, social evidence, nonfiction, pre-assessment. Okay. Yeah, Lit Circle 2 is until day 8, so we have time. Because today,
Day 2.
Day 2 or day 3? No, we're day 4.
Oh, so we're getting close to that.
We're getting close. So like we're technically. So tomorrow's 1, Wednesday, or no, tomorrow's 1. So yeah, it'd be next Friday.
All right. So let's spend the next 5 minutes just looking for a short-ish article on Aaron Hernandez.
Found the rise and fall of Aaron Hernandez on CBSNews.com. Which is an interview, but written out. This is actually long though.
How long is that one?
Pretty long. I would say pages.
let's look at this one. This one is talent versus character. It's the murder, the sports, and the third one was abuse.
Abuse.
It's the abuse part people are overlooking it.
Oh, I have this one right here. It says, Aaron Hernandez, ex-Patriots tight end, was sexually abused, beaten, and abused as a child. It's an article on USA Today, which is actually not that long, but also, I don't know, trust it.
It's funny, like these related articles aren't necessarily related at all.
Not at all. You
Um,
talking about a sport? Let me show you some sports.
So this is one possibility. Let's look at,
News LA.
take about another minute.
Well, he did have severe cases of CTE.
This is Hernandez. This one on Jason Williams is a page and a half. I think, let me press print and see.
How many people remember Jason Williams?
No. But they know they will know he played in the NBA, and there's like sport and abuse. Maybe it's a good thing that there are less notable athletes.
I think you're right. Jason Williams.
So there are these two. We can,
We can continue to research and find a suitable topic for, or not topic, but source.
and the fiction ones, they're done already, is that this?
They're not done. No, this is for the students who need to catch up. But I actually talked to Leon today about it, and I think it'd be way, because they have to write a letter.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be way better to give a pre-lesson and then have them do a timed write, and then just take their time write and put it into the final product.
Yes.
Because he was talking about how like he had trouble with like grading and all this, but he said it made it really easy to grade on the fly when I knew what I was looking for in a timed write, and I could just come around and monitor for that.
That's the part I mentioned earlier, which if we know what we're looking for,
Yeah.
We can give some targeted feedback with the aggressive monitoring.
Mm.
This is why it looked like that for Mr. Leon. Let me just play you So, it's a minute and 30. Would you notice?
He was focused on just looking for the evidence.
How can you tell that?
Because, well, first and foremost, that's exactly what I was trying to figure out in the beginning, and then I saw that how he was marking it, and then he's talking about like that's a good size quote, and he was only looking to underline it, which was something similar to. Okay, before I get to that, I was jumping to someone else. Okay, but also I noticed that he gave 5 to 6 people feedback in a minute and 30, which made it really quick for him to grade later to pull out like, okay, this is where the evidence, they do have this many sources, and then it allowed students to also lean on him to be like, okay, what does it mean to have a good source and have a structured essay in the moment while you're being assessed, but you're also getting feedback.
That is the ultimate goal, and I think that for this thing that you're working on here, if you are able to give students that kind of quick, actionable feedback while they're doing their research for the writings for their lit circle, the conversations are going to be super strong.
I think so too.
So that's going to be our goal, and why we're going to target the nonfiction one further out. It's going to help us pinpoint exactly what we want to see. He knows how does he know where he should target?
First he has to know what like they're going to be graded on.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he knows that they're going to be graded on, that's the only thing he's going to focus on.
He knows where he's going. That's the only thing he's going to focus on. You can't really see it, but on the board he has 4 laps. So
the first lap he's looking for this, the second lap he's looking for this.
So that was lap number 2. So he did the theme and the introduction, and then he's looking for first piece of evidence.
Damn, that's smart.
So,
you know what's funny is there's certain times in this job where I'm like, that is a smart idea. something similar to this, and this is where my brain was trailing off to a second ago, was very similar to this, was Crane goes and says that, oh, what I do is I have them highlight
Mm-hmm.
what parts they're gonna do, and like, okay, this is my theme statement, bam, and I highlight that yellow, and then I do the evidence blue, and I do this, and so when you go through, if they have those elements, I go, oh, you got all the elements, we're good.
That's another good way to color code it. I mean, yeah, I would even just ask students point to your theme.
Mm-hmm.
So point to a sentence that isn't a theme. That shows you that there's a lack of understanding there. You can note that, start to collect some real-time data. It is gonna allow you to move quickly. We're gonna get to this with this activity. So we're gonna start building out, we're gonna meet, you're off again for this prep on Thursday. So Thursday at this time, let's do the rest of this planning meeting. We're gonna plan out that activity that's a week and a half away.
Okay.
Right?
I can do that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Namaste.